The message about the hacking attack on Civic platform servers appeared in almost all Polish media, with Prime Minister Tusk himself adding to the drama. Cyber attacks on the Civic platform's IT system. Foreign interference in the elections has begun. State services point to an Eastern element. One didn't have to wait long for an entrance by Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Digitization, Krzysztof Gawkowski. State services are working intensively in connection with the cybersecurity incident concerning the Civic platform. The case is serious and we will keep you informed of all the details. Interestingly, as recently as yesterday, the case was presented quite differently and not so seriously. The media reported on a hacking of the email account of one of the Civic platform's local politicians to send out messages infected with viruses. This is what the head of the CPRM, Jan Grabiec, said about it. The cyber attack consisted of the fact that the email inbox of one of the employees was taken over, and through this an attempt was made to generate a fake message.
Tutaj mamy sytuację, w której jakiś działacz miał włam na skrzynkę. Być może
We have a situation in which some activist had his mailbox hacked. Perhaps it was a simple, common hacking attack resulting from a desire to make money, or perhaps something even more mundane. But they made this, as we can see, a prelude to being able to argue something later about the legitimacy of the election.
preludium do tego, żeby coś móc później sobie argumentować w kwestii legalności wyborów.
To, co mnie niepokoi bardzo mocno, to natychmiastowe.
What worries me greatly is the immediate inclusion of information about the attack in an attempt to show that Russia is already preparing to destabilize elections. I have the impression that the government is deliberately stirring up emotions in order to move the public debate and perhaps also to carry out actions to lower the credibility of the election result.
Mają obniżyć wiarygodność wyniku wyborczego.
Because everything is reminiscent of the beginning of the events that unfolded recently in Romania, where Russian services allegedly influenced the outcome of the presidential election. In Romania, it turned out that their version of the Civic platform was behind the promotion of Colin Georgescu, which promoted him in order to weaken the chances of their right-wing candidate, like Karol Nawrocki. So to say, to make the candidate of the European People's Party, or the equivalent of the Civic platform there, win the presidential election.
Wygrał wybory prezydenckie.
The whole issue of alleged Russian influence that the government is alarmed about looks suspicious. Isn't it the case that Donald Tusk is buoyantly examining what can be done within the framework of the presidential elections in Poland, what can be done, and whether this Romanian scenario, maybe also the French, can be repeated in Poland?
Daj Boże.
We asked Tusk coalition participants about the alleged Russian cyber attack and the Romanian scenario.
Zarówno premier Donald Tusk, jak również
Both Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Deputy Prime Minister Krzysztof Gawkowski explained very precisely what this attack on the IT infrastructure of the Civic platform is about.
strukturę informatyczną Platformy Obywatelskiej. Dziękuję.
To jest początek scenariusza.
Is this the beginning of the Bucharest scenario? This is not the start of Operation Bucharest in Poland. What kind of Operation Bucharest, Mr. Editor? Today's government does not want to remember the real influence of Russia and the Kremlin-inspired actions that actually influenced the elections in Poland.
Wschodnim śladem jest
The eastern element is that in 2023, text messages were hacked and sent against Law and Justice, and all sorts of information was posted on jumbotrons against Law and Justice. The eastern trace is the 8 Stars slogan against Law and Justice, which we now know was inspired by Russian services.
inspirowane przez rosyjskie służby.
The question is whether Tusk coalition, based on alleged Russian influence in the upcoming presidential elections, is not just starting to implement in Poland the scenario that worked in the Romanian elections.
Mamy 46 dni do
We are 46 days into the first round of elections. Some drama is beginning.
się pewien dramat.
Ewidentnie jest przygotowywany.
Evidently, the groundwork is being prepared for the annulment of the elections in Poland, unless these elections are dictated by Civic Platform, unless they are won by Civic Platform Deputy Chairman Rafał Trzaskowski.
Przez wiceszefa Platformy Obywatelskiej Rafała Trzaskowskiego.
The changes in the law that the December 13th coalition proposed shortly before the elections also fit into this puzzle.
Oni
They
przygotowali
drafted the statutory changes regarding the law on the Supreme Court, the Chamber of Extraordinary Control on Public Affairs, and for many years they didn't mind that it was that very chamber that decided the validity of the elections. Suddenly, a few months before, they found that it was not the court.
czerwone światełko.
What is at stake in the upcoming elections is whether Donald Tusk's coalition will succeed in closing the system and continuing to implement the rules of growling democracy.